Alright class, so really quickly we're going to talk about your spring project. So the Biology Spring Project, we're looking at balance and homeostatic relationships in an ecosystem. So these are your learning objectives, your goals, tasks show your mastery skills and concepts. Remember, we would do a lot more detail if we were doing this in class. I'd be checking every step of the way. We'd be working in class specifically. Don't worry too much about it right now. I'm looking for you to do your best and show me that you put some effort in. Now, first off, this data table. It's nothing. It used to contain the due dates and all that stuff, but I can't delete it without messing up the whole page, so I just took out the information. Don't worry about it. References. I decided to give you guys as many tools as I could ahead of time. These are all important informational things. They'll explain things, explain concepts, give you ideas. Look through these. Hopefully something will help. Now, task 1, background information. This is kind of a review in-class concepts and kind of just verifying what you know and also getting your background information ready. So this first part is a callback to evolution. What is evolution leads to biodiversity on Earth? Talk about that concept just real quick, just demonstrate you understand it. So tell me where you've chosen. Remember, you can choose your backyard area, like the local area around your house. You can choose your city. You can choose the Arctic tundra. You can choose the Great Barrier Reef. It's your choice for the ecosystem and region. And you're gonna pick 2 organisms. Try to pick the fun ones. Like, I've read 100 pages about how these organisms develop claws so they could use claws. Like, that's boring. Like, that's why I use the picture of the anteater. That's a cool organism. Try to pick 2 weird or interesting ones. There's a lot more animals out there than just giraffes and lions. Next, trace and compare phylogenetic trait. You're just trying to see, are our 2 species I've chosen closely related, distantly related? What are they also related to? Where are their ancestors around the world? Are they similar, different? You're just tracing its phylogenetic history. You're comparing adaptation of the organisms to maintain homeostasis in response. So basically, that's why you need to know where they come from, because are these the ancestors of your organism always have webbed feet, or do they always live in trees? So how have they adapted to live in the ecosystem you've chosen? And finally, choose an organ system to compare. This is really just for you to compare 2 organisms to see if they're very similar or different, and they live differently or similarly in your environment. It's not that big a deal. Next is task 2, the Anthropocene effect. The evidence is available on direct versus indirect. So, direct versus indirect is important. Direct human impact. I shoot and kill an endangered species. I have directly impacted that species. Indirect, I have this big coal production plant and I dump all my waste in the river, and that poisons the water, and that poisoning the water kills endangered fish. That was an indirect impact. Cutting down the trees, direct impact. The air pollution, indirect impact. So you're just looking at your ecosystem and your organisms and seeing how humans are directly and indirectly impacting them. And now, secondly, how have these activities changed the habit of your organisms? For example, there are now monkeys that actively stay near tourist locations because they know the tourists will give them food. How do these activities affect the stability of the ecosystem? Same thing. Now there's a new food source, humans. How's that going to change or disrupt the ecosystem? And all those things like that. So find out ways that the ecosystem stability and the homeostatic imbalances caused by humans. For example, there are certain organisms that live in the tropics that don't do well in heat, but because there's shade from the trees, they are fine. As we chop down more trees, they're exposed to more heat, they're struggling in their own environment. What are some physiological changes as a result of human impact? Another example would be there's a type of frog that, because of pollutants in the water, has begun growing extra legs. And finally, make a prediction. What will happen to your ecosystem and organisms if we don't do anything? Finally, task 3, your solution. So first things first, research available solutions right now. Go out there, no need to reinvent the wheel, find out how other people are doing things, give me a big list, see what you can do, and also see if there can be an improvement, see if something was done that was kind of so-so, and you can improve it. So describe your solution to mitigate the effects of climate change or the Anthropocene effect in detail. The keyword here is mitigate. We're not going to magically make all the pollution vanish, but we can reduce consumption, change fuel sources, try something different, help out, pick up trash. How can we mitigate, reduce, slow down the impact? That's what you're trying to do here. I'm not asking you guys to save the world. Next, how can you test your solution? Think about it. How would you actually test to see if the solution you come up with is even viable? Like, how would you do it? What could you do? And finally, how can you present your findings? Would you get information out there with a presentation like the one you're making for the project? Would you record a video of yourself doing something? Would you start a website? Would you hand out pamphlets? What would be the best way to present your solution to the world? Those are your 3 tasks. The goal of the 3 tasks is to give you background information and prep you to put your presentation together. So now it's time for your project, specifically. So first things first, color and pictures. Not too many pictures that it overloads the page, but you should have some colors and some imagery. So name your ecosystem you're presenting. So where are we looking at? Where's the focus? Your name and your period number. Partner's name and period number if you have a partner. Now, first, cool or interesting organism. Pick something fun or interesting. So tell them about the organism, where it lives, what's a cool, interesting adaptation it's evolved to survive in the ecosystem, how does it survive in general. Tell us about its adaptations, and same thing with the second one. Details about your ecosystem. I need context information. Tell me where it is, what it's like, what's normal there, what type of system is it, how it functions. Tell us about it. We might not know. It might not be a very famous ecosystem. Maybe you need to explain it. Human impact on your ecosystem. So now how are humans specifically impacting? Positive, negative, direct, and indirect impacts. Tell us all of it, just to kind of explain the basics, general idea of how humans are impacting your ecosystem. Explain how the impacts are changing your ecosystem. This is a big one. How has your ecosystem changed over time due to human activity? A lot of places look very different than they used to because of humans, so talk about that. And finally, talk about your solution. So this is where you're explaining how the solution you come up with will help mitigate the impacts on your ecosystem. Now, you don't have to keep this number of slides. Like if you want to spend 2 slides talking about your ecosystem, that's fine. But the goal is basically to do the research and analysis on tasks 1 and 2 and 3, and then combine and then take that information and put it into a presentation, and that's your spring project. Remember, I know this isn't easy. I know some of you might struggle with the amount of work. Don't worry, your goal is to do your best and try to show effort. You're trying to show me that you did put some thought into this because this is your world. We're talking about how to clean up and protect the world you live in. The more you know, the better you can protect it. So this has been Schechter Biology Spring Project.